childhood stolen and futures destroyed. A sad reality for hundreds of South Sudan children recruited by the government to fight in the war. Around 16,000 child soldiers have been recruited since civil war began in December 2013.
When you drive along these rural roads, you see child soldiers and all the different groups are recruiting. There's a mobilization going on in some of these remote areas to get people into these armed groups because people feel the violence will escalate and they're taking advantage of that to recruit these very young people. I met a family of a child soldier and their young boy had just returned, and he talked about 3 years of being in one of these armed groups and the violence that they're forced to commit and the atrocities that they become part of, including being forced to rape, to shoot, is just appalling, and it takes years for these children to overcome these horrors.
South Sudan has come under fire for the violence sweeping through the country. With children as new recruits in the war, the future remains bleak for the landlocked country in East Central Africa.
Particularly around that outbreak of violence over a month ago. I mean, the terrible attacks on those humanitarian workers, but there were also hundreds of South Sudanese women and girls that were raped. And we also know a number of Ethiopian and Kenyan workers in Juba, the capital, were raped. Some of them were taken off to military camps for days and raped by many soldiers. So we need to stop this. It's completely unacceptable, and the government needs to control, and the opposition groups need to control their military forces.
Armed groups in South Sudan often coerce children to join their ranks by threatening to confiscate their families' cattle, a key source of wealth and status in this pastoral city. The UN document indicates that the recruitment of children took place shortly after the UN Security Council a week ago approved sending an additional 4,000 peacekeepers to the East African country to protect civilians after renewed fighting in the capital, Juba, last month. South Sudan's military and opposition forces have made repeated promises to address allegations of child recruitment. But both sides have continued recruiting since July's outbreak of violence, according to UNICEF. Bureau Report, ANN7.